All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we are tackling a massive security gap that is likely hiding in plain sight right inside your Microsoft Cloud environment. We're talking about the hidden risk of standing admin access in Entra ID.
So let's just jump right in. I want you to do a quick mental exercise for me. Picture your Entra ID roles and administrators blade. Look at your global administrators. How many people are actually on that list? And more importantly, how many of them literally just activated their role through PIM like 20 minutes ago versus how many have just been permanent global admins since, I don't know, a migration project 2 years ago? Because if you can't spot the difference instantly, well, you've got a standing access problem. And honestly, it's probably way bigger than you think.
Here's our roadmap for today. 1. The standing access problem. 2. Active versus eligible risk. 3. Spotting the vulnerability manually. 4. Automating the security audit. And 5. The 5-step remediation plan.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the standing access problem.
You know, there's a very good reason why standing privileged access is literally the #1 finding in external security reviews and pen tests. It comes down to this huge enterprise myth, the idea that turning PIM on for your tenant automatically fixes your existing standing assignments. It doesn't. PIM only governs how new, eligible assignments get activated. If you rolled out PIM partway through your tenant's lifecycle, which, let's be real, is almost all of us, PIM did absolutely zero to clean up those permanent assignments that were already sitting there.
And those legacy assignments, they just sit there, silently waiting. They literally never expire. So think about it. If an attacker manages to phish or token steal their way into an account that has standing global admin access, boom, they are a global admin the very second they get in. There's no activation step to trip an alarm, no time limit ticking down, and no MFA challenge required just to use the privilege. It is a complete zero-friction entry point for compromised accounts.
Moving on to Section 2. Active versus eligible risk. When you look at the Microsoft Graph data model, there's a fundamental difference between active and eligible risk. Standing, or active access, means that the privilege is just there. It's permanently and silently attached to the account. Now compare that to eligible access via PIM. With eligible access, the user starts with 0 default privileges. To get them, they have to actually request activation, provide a business justification, pass an MFA challenge, and then wait for approval. It creates this loud, time-boxed event that your Security Operations Center can actually see and alert on.
But here is why this vulnerability is so incredibly persistent. Under the hood in Microsoft Graph, current, in-effect assignments are represented by a resource type called Role Assignment Schedule Instance. Every single entry here is someone who holds the role right now. But here's the catch. Graph actually groups both your permanent standing assignments and your temporary PIM activations under this exact same resource type. So when you're looking at standard views, they look absolutely identical. There's no obvious difference.
On the flip side of that, we have Role Eligibility Schedule Instance. This is a completely separate object, and it represents users who hold 0 default privileges, but they have the right to request them. And you know what? This is exactly the risk profile we want to see across the entire enterprise. Let's look at Section 3, Spotting the Vulnerability Manually. Now, before we get into automating anything, you really need to understand exactly how auditors and pen testers validate this finding manually in your environment. Here's the exact click path they're taking. First, they open the Entra Admin Center as a global or privileged role admin. Then they head over to Identity Governance and into Privileged Identity Management. From there, under Manage, they click on Microsoft Entra Roles and they pick a high-risk role, usually Global Administrator. Finally, they hit the Assignments tab. This right here is exactly where the standing access problem hides in plain sight.
When you're looking at that Active Assignments tab, you have to look really closely at the assignment type and the end date. If you see assigned and the end date says permanent, you are looking at a standing, high-risk assignment. But if you see activated with a hard, say, 4 to 8 hour expiry, okay, that's PIM working exactly like it should. That UI distinction is absolutely critical, but honestly, it is so easy to miss if you aren't specifically hunting for it.
Okay, before we go any farther, I need to give you a massive warning. Do not, I repeat, do not remove your own active global administrator assignment first. Unless you really enjoy explaining to the CIO why literally nobody can log into Azure today, you have to make sure you have at least one other working confirmed global admin account, like a dedicated break glass account that's excluded from conditional access. You need that before you even touch your own standing assignment. We have actually seen tenants permanently locked out of Entra ID because an admin revoked their own access mid-remediation and had no backup. So please, be careful.
Section 4, Automating the Security Audit.
So spotting this manually on one role takes maybe a couple of minutes, but trying to do that by hand across all 60+ built-in directory roles, yeah, that just doesn't scale. To solve that scaling problem, we're going to use a script called Get-PIMStandingAdminReport.ps1. It's a free, read-only, open-source PowerShell script from Imran Alwan over on his GitHub repo. It does exactly what we just walked through manually, but programmatically across your entire tenant.
Here's how the logic actually works under the hood. It connects up using the Microsoft Graph Identity Governance module. It goes through and enumerates every single directory role, pulls down every active and eligible assignment instance, and then it cross-references them by principal ID. What it's doing is isolating the active assignments that have no corresponding eligible counterpart, basically the ones that were never intended to be time-boxed through PIM. It even color-codes things for you, flagging high-impact roles like global and security admins in red and other built-in roles in amber.
But, and this is important, you can't just blindly remediate every single hit the script gives you. That assign status, it can legitimately pop up for short-term active assignments made outside of PIM, things like a live incident response, or again, those essential break glass accounts. So always cross-check the script's findings against your ticketing system before you actually pull the trigger on revoking access.
Finally, Section 5, the 5-step remediation plan.
All right, once you've validated your list, it's time to lock things down. We need to convert these standing vulnerabilities into secure, eligible assignments. The absolutely crucial part here is following this exact 5-step sequence for every single flagged principal. Step 1. Confirm the finding is actually valid and not a break glass account. Step 2. Remove the permanent active assignment right there in the Entra portal. Step 3. Create an eligible assignment for that exact same user. Step 4. Harden your activation policy. Make sure it requires MFA, a business justification, and a max activation window of, say, 4 to 8 hours. And finally, Step 5. Turn on PIM alerts. This way your team gets notified immediately if anyone tries to assign roles outside of privileged identity management in the future.
Just look at how dramatic this shift is when you actually apply the process. Before remediation, the test tenant we're looking at had 118 active assignments and only 41 eligible. But after running the script and applying those 5 steps, active assignments dropped to 74, and those are now just legitimate temporary PIM activations currently running their course. Meanwhile, the eligible assignments jumped up to 85. Tracking this eligible to active ratio is a fantastic health metric to keep an eye on over time for your cloud architecture.
But please, do not treat this as a one-and-done cleanup. Standing access has a nasty habit of creeping back in, usually during rushed onboardings or, 2 a.m. troubleshooting sessions. You really need to schedule Get-PIMStandingAdminReport.ps1 to run on a weekly basis. The best way to handle this is by using an Azure Automation runbook with a system-assigned managed identity that only holds read-only graph scopes. Export those results to a CSV so your security engineers can catch that access creep the second it happens.
So, that brings us to our final thought for today. How many standing global admins does your tenant actually have right now? Honestly, most system administrators guess wrong, and they usually guess way too low. So, here's my challenge to you. Grab this script, run it in your own environment, and see if the reality actually matches your expectations. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and stay secure out there.